So there's a part in the middle of the movie where the screen goes blank and it's like, oh no, the Tingler's loose in the theater.
Why do you say that all creatives have a creature living inside of them?
Did I say that?
Yeah.
Sounds like something I would say.
You said it was like this creature that was always like, oh, we could do that. Oh, and I can make that. And it can be a blessing and a curse. And the curse is it won't leave you alone because you're always thinking of these new ideas and how you want to like make something.
Yeah. I really love this movie, The Tingler. That is a William Castle film starring Vincent Price, where Vincent Price is a scientist that discovers that fear is a creature that lives on your spinal cord. And the creature gets bigger and bigger. It feeds off your fear. And the only way to shrink the creature back down is by screaming. And the whole movie is about this. They get a mute girl who can't scream, and they scare her to force this creature to break out. And then the creature gets loose so they can try to experiment with the creature. But I always really enjoyed that premise because I feel that's the same way with creativity. You have a monster living inside you that is so desperate to do things creatively. And this goes back to passion versus obsession too, because it's like you go to bed sometimes, you're like, oh, I have an idea. Oh my gosh, this is a great idea. I got to write this down. I got to figure out a way to do this. I got to pitch this to somebody. I got to see about it. It's like a madness that I feel like kind of lives inside. And everyone has a bit of a multiple personalities, right? So you have this creature that lives inside of you that's just whispering these great ideas in your ear. And you're like, oh yeah, that is a good idea. Oh, I could totally do that. Oh, I could change this or blah, blah, blah. And so I like the whole idea that you have a friend that's with you, you know? So it's just, yeah. So your creativity is this creature that lives inside of you that is constantly forcing you to get excited about things and then trying to figure out how to accomplish them. But it is a bit of madness. It does drive you crazy sometimes because not everyone can just go out and make whatever they want at all times, not decently. And there's certain projects that you want to wait until you can do them correctly or hopefully do them correctly or get the right kind of budget you need or the right team. And so I think that every creative is a little bit mad, of course.
But it's almost as if it's coming from somewhere else. It's not really you.
I mean, I feel like everyone talks to themselves. Everyone has conversations in their head.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like, who are you talking to? It's just you. There's no one else in there, right? Or is there someone else in there? So I always love that movie Identity, where they have the guy who's, it's kind of a spoiler, I guess, but has all the different personalities that turn into people. And it's all the different elements of his personality, all these different people. And they're all different. But, you know, everyone works better in groups. Right? We like to work in groups. We like to work in teams. It makes things easier. So the idea that you have me, myself, and I, your trinity inside of you that's all working together to make things happen, I think is a comforting feeling to where the world isn't always 100% on your shoulders, even though it seems like it, because you have you, yourself, and I to help out, you know, and your little creative monster that lives on your spinal cord. It helps lift that weight because being in entertainment, you know, we have a very big responsibility. And you look at things like the Great Depression, you look at the history of movies. In the Great Depression, all movies turned to comedy because people desperately needed a way to escape how tragic reality was. And we've had that same thing happen this past year with COVID. People are trapped at home. Well, Netflix numbers are skyrocketing because they're stuck at home. They need that escape. They need entertainment to survive. And I really think that it's important, you know, what we do. It's not just for fun and giggles, and it seems like it to some people, but it is really important because a lot of people's livelihood, this helps them. It's their escape from reality. It helps keep them sane so their monsters don't get loose on them. And I'm really proud to be a part of all that, especially when you can provide someone entertainment with your work. I mean, that's an amazing, amazing feeling.
What year did that movie come out with Vincent Price?
Oh gosh, 60s.
Okay.
I'm not sure the exact year.
Interesting. And what's the title of it again?
It's called The Tingler.
The Tingler. That's right. You said that.
It was a William Castle movie, and they put buzzers all around the theater. So there's a part in the middle of the movie where the screen goes blank, and it's like, oh no, the Tingler's loose in the theater, and then starts shocking people, and people are screaming and jumping up and running around, and yeah, it's a good one.
So the only negative to having this creature, this metaphorical creature inside of you, is that it's frustrating because you can't get all of the projects you want done?
Well, it's hungry. You know, it's a hungry creature. Oh. And if it's not fed, it gets angry. And I ended up starting in video, and then a few years later ended up getting into photography because I was like, oh, photography is exactly like filmmaking, only it's one frame instead of 24 frames a second. So I only have to make one picture, and I have a lot more control, and it's a lot cheaper, and I only need one model or a couple models, and I can do whatever I want. And then I learned Photoshop, and I'm like, now I can really make whatever I want, composite people into crazy locations, because I need that creative outlet. As creatives, like we have to feed the beast. So you want that, and that creature is hungry. And so you got to figure out ways to do it. And people, I think, that are creatives will find that way, either through writing or art or filmmaking or basket weaving or whatever is on their Etsy site. You know, you can find a creative outlet, but you kind of feel like you have to do it because of this starving monster inside of you that needs to be fed.
Did you always honor that creature? I mean, when you were growing up, did you have other plans for a quote unquote career? Were there other classes you were taking?
I never had a plan B. Like, not really. I really knew very strongly what I wanted to do and thought that it would be possible. I think especially the late 90s, like when I was in high school, when DVDs first came out, they had these things called special features, which you never got on VHS tapes. Very rarely would you get like a second VHS tape that had like behind the scenes. The only time you ever get to see behind the scenes is on like an entertainment news that would play for half an hour a night, you know, before the sitcoms came on, or an HBO special or something. So you never really got to experience what it was like behind the camera. So I remember starting to see these special features and being like, oh man, look at how they make these movies. Like, I didn't even think about it as a kid. I just thought these movies just came out of nowhere. They just poof, existed. But then you see the whole processes and making that magic happen, and being a child and having so many movies affect you as a kid. And, you know, I grew up as a horror kid. I mean, I loved slasher movies, and some people watch Star Wars. I didn't watch Star Wars until I was an adult. Like, I watched Freddy and Jason, and like this was where I like to escape to. And horror is a really important thing to me too, the horror genre, because a lot of people look at as horror as like, oh, it's exploitive, it's splatter, it's gross. Like, why do you want to focus on death? Like, horror doesn't focus on death. Horror focuses on life. You know, you as a viewer survive no matter what the movie. There's people that don't survive. And it really lights a fire under you, hopefully, to be like, man, I could have been that guy that just took a machete to the head, but I didn't. I lived. I need to take advantage of this. There's such an inspiring me. As a kid, I was so inspired because it's like, oh, look, I lived. No, I need to take advantage of this life while I have it before some crazy hockey mask killer shows up in the middle of the night. And granted, it's fun, or a lot of them are fun, but I always felt like that. It's an adrenaline rush. It's like a roller coaster. And then at the end, but you survive no matter what. And that's an exciting thing. And I like bringing that to audiences for sure.